Good evening. This is Matt Mosley from Big Pig Energy. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 on the Arkansas Sports Network. Joining us tonight, as always, Coach Kevin Kelley back from parts unknown. Coach, man, appreciate you getting back with us tonight. I know you were, I think you were at a U2 concert last week.
I was, yeah. I got to see the concert in the Sphere. It was awesome. It wasn't as cool as this, but it was second. Close second.
Wasn't as cool as this. That says a lot. Joining us tonight, I am real excited about this guest. Cierra Clark, sports reporter from THV11. She's actually the first media personality from THV that we've had on the show with us this year, actually ever. She covers the Razorbacks and local sports and Arkansas sports in the last 2 years in Little Rock. Native of Orlando, Florida, and she graduated from the University of Florida, which we won't hold that against you. We let Courtney Mims come on 2 weeks in a row, and she's a grad in Florida too. So, Cierra, welcome to Big Pig Energy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell us, I know you're 2 years in Arkansas. What do you think so far about? I mean, what's the difference between Gainesville and Little Rock? Tell us the biggest things.
So I went to UF, and then after I graduated, I found a job at the local TV station in Gainesville. So I was in Gainesville for about 6 years-ish. And so Gainesville is strictly just like a college town. Of course, there's people who aren't in college who live there, but the city shuts down when the Gators are playing. You can't get anywhere. But it's a really great college town. Fayetteville, I would say it's a college town like, but still the surrounding towns like Rogers, Bentonville, all that stuff, there's more people of different ages, and like you can kind of get away from the game day university stuff. And then Little Rock, it's not college town at all. Of course, there's colleges and universities in this area, but it's very small compared to where I grew up. I grew up in a suburb of Orlando called Winter Springs. So it's Seminole County, the next county over, but not a lot of traffic here compared to where I am from. When I'm going home for Halloween weekend, which is also the bye week, and I'm just already mentally preparing, okay, I'm going to have to deal with traffic again, because traffic in Arkansas is nothing compared to Orlando. It's like more and more people keep living there. But culturally wise, everyone loves the Hogs. It's really cool to see that everyone kind of rallies around one team. And then everyone seems to be very nice. The Southern hospitality thing is very real here.
That is a fact. You know, the funny thing, if you don't know this about Gainesville, they actually call Gainesville Hogtown, which is kind of crazy.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I did not know that. I do a lot of business in my regular real life job in the Gainesville area. And several years ago, a guy told me, a Florida grad, he said, we call Gainesville Hogtown, right? And I'm like, huh?
I've heard it. It's not like I never used it, but I've heard like there's like a Hogtown brewery or something like that. So I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yep, I've been there many times. It's an interesting. Swampers is another spot that I really like in Gainesville. So I enjoy Gainesville's nightlife. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of good times down there going to Razorback games though. So
yeah.
Coach, you missed last week. We talked about Ole Miss. We're looking at the recap. Arkansas came into Oxford Saturday night an 11.5-point underdog. The defense showed up strong, but the Hogs still fell short 27-20 late. Penalties, man, it seems like we cannot get away. Like we'll have a clean week, and then next week we go out and we get 10 penalties for 70 yards. Through 6 games, Coach, we've been penalized 46 times for 486 yards this season. Ties them for the 12th most penalized team in the FBS. I mean, Coach, at this point, you're 6 games into the season, fixing to be in game 7. What does Sam Pittman and his coaching staff have to do to get this stuff to stop?
Well, and, I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and obviously, if it was addressed, it's not their job to address it. It's their job to get it changed. That's what a coach gets paid to do. And, there's ways you can do it. You can hold the kids more accountable for getting penalties. But like I said back a couple of weeks ago, you have to educate them on how important it is to not get a penalty. The chances of you scoring on a drive go down to less than half of what they normally are if you get a penalty on offense. And the same thing on defense. They double their chances if you get a defensive penalty on the chance to drive. On the chance to score. We're not playing well enough to make those mistakes to double their chances to score on a drive and to cut ours in half. We're killing ourselves on our own without doing that. So they've got to educate them. They've got to hold them accountable. And if they don't, we're seeing no difference in results. So whatever they're doing, they got to change it and do a better job, because you keep doing the same thing. You keep getting these 10 for 70, 11 for 110, and we're not good enough to sustain that and be able to beat anybody, let alone a good team.
Well, the show, I like PFF, and I know some people are not big fans of it. The NFL loves it. They use it on their broadcast now. I've kind of grown to use it as kind of a grading system to see where we're at. We had the worst offensive blocking game as far as pass blocking that we've had all year. The offensive line's been much maligned, had the worst run blocking game we've had all year. At like 42.5%, 46% in the pass blocking game. Just abysmal offensively. It looks like they're regressing almost at this point. They did have a few bright spots Saturday night. Ty Washington showed up. Hadn't seen him much this year, Sierra. Showed up huge in the game. He set a career high for receptions with 7. Had 90 yards receiving, scored 2 touchdowns. Caught 5 on the first 56 yards on the opening drive and got his first touchdown of the night, capped off the opening drive on a 3-yard reception from KJ Jefferson. And he's the third player to receive with multiple receiving touchdowns in a game this season, with Andrew Armstrong, Luke Hosby, and the other. I know you've been up there and back and forth. With this tight end group, where has this been? Because Luke Haas must have been that much better for Washington to not be playing, because Washington looked really strong Saturday night.
He did look really good, and it's obviously disappointing that Luke Haas is out for the rest of the year, because he was this freshman and it was just like such a breath of fresh air, and he helped, of course, keep us in the game when they played LSU. And so now it's like kind of that next man up mentality, which is a bit of a bright spot again to see, with the whole lack of offensive explosion on the run game. And so that's been exciting to see. But, you still want to kind of see those other guys, them get some catches too. Like Isaac Tesla, of course, has been hyped up a lot. And he seems like he's being covered a lot this year, but I would still, he hasn't really caught much touchdowns this year. Or Isaiah Satania, he's someone I know he does a lot of the punt return, the kickoff returns, but I'd like to also see him more on the field during the regular game, because he knows he's got all that speed, and I want to see him, pull off some explosive plays too. So it's just kind of up to the offensive coaching staff to see who they place in what order. And I would be curious to know why they play certain guys over the other. Obviously, like sometimes when we have those practices, I haven't been up to a practice since fall camp, but there's certain parts that we can't really see or can't watch, so we don't really get to see that much, like the full in-depth practices. But I would really like to know, of course, why he was out. Washington has been out a lot of the year.
Coach, looking at this, beginning of the season, there was a lot of hype around KJ Jefferson, and they sent him out to California to work with George Whitfield, work on his footwork. We talked about it a lot last year about his footwork and how he needed to get it fixed, and it would help him be a better passer. He's thrown for 1 TD in 17 consecutive games dating back to the first game of 22. He's thrown multiple TDs in 19 career games. He finished the game 25 for 39 at 252 and 2 passing TDs, but he also had 2 huge interceptions. And his interception totals are up already this year. I think he's up 6 through 6 games. Coach, it starts and ends right with the quarterback. What does Dan Enos got? What do we got to see out of Enos to get KJ Jefferson going in the right direction?
Well, golly, I'm frustrated by the whole operation, because what we're doing is we're sitting here every week. We're either blaming KJ or we're blaming the offensive line. We're blaming these guys. And, the bottom line is this: you can't call freaking pass plays that take 4 seconds to block. If you're not going to be able to block 4 seconds. You're asking guys to do something they can't do. That's a coach's job, to know what you've got to work with. And we got to run more quick game. we got to do. I saw a tweet by Steve Sullivan. I don't always agree with Steve, but he was right. Let's go no back. Our rushing game's minimal anyway. All we're doing is wasting time with it. Go no back. That and now he didn't say this, but what that does, if you go no back, that unmuddies the waters for the offensive line. They can't disguise blitzes. It removes one whole defender out of the box, and it gives them a clearer picture of what's going on. That probably helps them. Number 2, you work on the quick game. Number 3, you have to educate your quarterback. I've got a buddy that owns Sports Source Analytics. It's a good analytics shop. They serve a lot of colleges and pro teams. And he's a buddy of mine. And I asked him, I wanted to see, I've got the list of the average amount of time it takes a quarterback in the NFL. I got a list of every one of them from the time the ball snapped to the ball's out of their hands. Okay. The Tua Tagovailoa throws the ball further downfield than anybody. Mm-hmm. He gets the ball out on average for the whole year on every play, 2.43 seconds. That's his average. KJ gets the ball out in like 3.5, and we're not even throwing it down the field. Mm-hmm. It's a full extra second you're asking guys to block that are showing that we can't block that long. A coach has to educate the guy to get the ball out faster. He also has to call plays that get it out faster, run plays that get open faster and are shorter routes, run some rubs, do some stuff, because we keep doing the same thing. He drops back, he holds the ball for 3 seconds, and you can't really say whose fault it is. The KJ's, the lines, or whatever. But I know this, the coach gets to decide how long we have to execute a play by calling a certain play. And that's what we need to change. It's embarrassing to me that our offensive line continues to get blamed by PFF, and I get it. But if you ask them to block longer than they can, they're not going to. And we've supposedly got the best offensive line coach. I've been told that by several head FBS coaches that he's the best offensive line coach in the game and that we're having this many struggles. So either we can block and we're asking him to do it too long, or we can't block and he needs to get more involved.
Yeah. Looking at what KJ's been able to do, I mean, he's one of 3 Razorback passers to throw for over 60 touchdowns in his career. He joined Brandon Allen at 64 and Ryan Mallett at 62. Rest in peace, 1-5. Andrew Armstrong showed up again Saturday night, 8 catches for 86 yards, tallied his 22nd consecutive game with at least 1 catch that goes back to his time at Commerce down in Texas. And also logged a team-leading 40 yards a yak on Saturday night. I'm really liking what I see out of Andrew Armstrong week to week. I think that kid keeps getting better, and KJ is a little more comfortable going to him in certain situations. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, Jaheim Thomas, man, what about that kid? I mean, really didn't know a lot about him coming from Cincinnati, coach, and he's come in with another double-digit tackle night. 11. I think that's like 5 straight games with double-digit tackles for Thomas so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, and thank goodness our defense is showing up and our offense is struggling. I'd love to see just one time we can put a whole game plan together. I mean, they played really well against Ole Miss. When you look at the total yards Ole Miss is averaging and what we ended up giving up, we gave up 349. I mean, heck, that's 150 yards or more than what they're below what they're averaging against everybody else. So defense shows up, offense can't move the ball well enough. Got just one time we've got to all show up at the same time. And that's with our offense not doing a lot. How much better would our defense be if we could keep them on the sideline, let them rest up a little bit?
Well, looking at the FBS rankings, I mean, Arkansas ranks 43rd in total defense through 6 games. I mean, this time last year we weren't dead last, but we were pretty close to dead last. We were in the bottom third of the country defensively. Now there was a lot of reasons for that, but out of 375 snaps, the defense allowed around 2,000 yards. I mean, that's 5.4 yards per play, which is not a disrespectful number. I mean, I think I said at the first show of the season that if the offense was clicking and the defense stayed in the top 50, we were going to have a pretty good little football team, just based on, the SEC and kind of how things go. I felt like we'd have some chances. I mean, they held Jackson Dart to 153 yards through the air Saturday night, and that's the lowest. That's his season low. I think it's the lowest he's had in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, we allowed them less than 5 yards per play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd have told me that, I'd have told you we're going to win the game outright. I would have just never guessed they were going to do that. But we've got to be able to put it together. But, it all comes down to, I hate to say it because I am a passing guy. I throw the ball. I've got 12 of the top 100 seasons in the history of high school football throwing the football in total offense. I like to throw the ball. You cannot run the ball for 36 yards in a college game and expect to win. You just can't do it. And we ran the ball for 36 yards. So change the way that you're running the game. I don't know if it was me and you or somebody else and I talked about, the zone blocking stuff. We need to run a gap scheme. With that way, you don't have to ask your guys to push guys where you want them to go. You just have to ask them to get in the way and cut guys off, and your running backs can get through there. But we've got some talented running backs. We know we've got some talented running backs. But to run the ball for 36 yards in a game where you didn't get down 28-0 and have to throw it every down, you were able to run the ball the whole game if you wanted to, and we had 36 yards. We've just got to be better, and we've got to play action more. Play action more gets the lineman to hesitate because of the way the play is designed, and it buys you a whole extra second in the passing game. But until we help our defense out and they're playing their butts off, I mean, it's just going to be tough. And thank goodness Alabama this week doesn't have a quarterback that can throw it all over the field, and that's going to give us a chance to stay in the game for a while.
Yeah, and we're going to get into Alabama. I've got some interesting things to say about that one because I'll get into that in a second. The frustrating thing for me this season at the halfway point, I mean, we really are. We're 6 games in. We ranked 110th in the nation in total offense. This time last year, we were, I think 14th, 13th, something like that. 391 plays for 1,997 yards. You add in the penalty yards, the Hogs will be almost 2,400 yards and be in the top 40 in total offense. I mean, that's real numbers, Sierra. If you add the penalty yards back in, because somebody said to me the other day, I think I might have heard it on one of the radio stations in Little Rock, we're winning the time of possession. I'm like, we're winning time of possession because we're getting penalties and the clock's still sitting there running.
Yeah, I know in the SEC, the Hogs are dead last when it comes to total offense. So that's just really disappointing to see because at SEC Media Days, KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders are really hyped up by some of the SEC Network people and overall media were saying that they're the best quarterback running back duo in the nation. And of course, talent-wise, I really do believe that is true. But we haven't been able to see that production go ahead. And I know Rocket has been hurt a lot of the year, and we still really probably don't know if he's feeling any pain at all in his knee. But it's just been so frustrating because we know how good this offense can be. And I don't know if it has to do with the change of the offensive coordinators, if that has a factor as well. But it's frustrating, I'm sure, for Hog fans to see this.
Sticking with defense real quick, I want to make sure I touch on these two guys. Jaden Johnson had his first double-digit tackling game of his Razorback career Saturday night. 11 total tackles, 4 solo. And another guy that I've been really impressed with, Coach, and I'd love to get your take on this guy, is a transfer from Missouri, Trajan Jeffcoat, number 7. Tied his single game high in tackles for loss with 3. He had 4 tackles, a sack, and a quarterback hurry. That guy, it seems like he's starting to get his motor cranked up. Like he may be a problem for Alabama on Saturday.
Well, I don't know if he's going to be a problem for Alabama, but he's definitely been a problem for some teams. And slowly but surely, when you come to a new team and you're getting to play a little bit for the first time, you need to figure out things and get some confidence where you see things and you start trusting yourself and you start reacting and not hesitating and questioning, am I right? Am I going the right way? Is that where the ball's going? And it looks like he's figuring that out. It looks like he's trusting his brain immediately instead of hesitating and double checking and making sure. And, which is probably what we need KJ Jefferson to do too, is trust that first thought and go with it instead of hesitate. But for a guy like Jeffcoat, and it brings back memories for me. I'm a big Cowboys fan. They had a big defensive tackle named Jim Jeffcoat. Yep. And I was wanting him to be related to him. I don't think he is because I tried to find it, as a matter of fact. But I was wanting to be related to him because I thought he's a really good defensive lineman for the Cowboys. But thank goodness, he's doing a good job in shoring that up. And people don't understand how good how much help that gives for the rest of the line, the linebackers, and all that kind of stuff. But he's playing well, and I hope he continues on the same ascension line he's on now because it looks like he's got a really bright future.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps playing like he's playing, he's going to make himself some money. He's going to help himself in his draft stock this spring. Because I mean, watching him Saturday night, he had one play where he was coming from the outside on the weak side. He stretched the guy out and then went low and pivoted and made the offensive tackle bend. And when you see a tackle bend backwards and to the side, you know you got him off his balance. And I mean, he was around him quick as a whip. And I really like to see twitchy defensive ends. He's big for a defensive end. He really is. I think he might actually move inside in the NFL. I don't know if he'll play on the edge. I don't know if he's fast enough to play on the edge in the NFL, but he's such a big body, strong kid. It was really, really impressive for me to see him make a tackle bend that way Saturday night. A couple more things on the Ole Miss game. I was looking at the stats again. We're 42nd on third down, which is not terrible. Like offensively, like we do pretty good on third down when we get a third and medium. Anything worse than third and 7, we drop from 42nd all the way down to like 111th. And it just blows my mind. Coach, I want to hear, and the reason I bring this up is I want to hear your take on this. When you're calling plays and you're behind the sticks and you're on third down, you're third and medium, third and long, where is the logic in calling something where you're going to throw the ball behind the sticks? Like, why are you going to throw a screen pass or 5-yard out instead of try to stretch the field and go for the first down? I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. Coach, we can't hear you, buddy.
Because you have zero confidence in either your offensive line or your quarterback, your receivers. I mean, that's the bottom line. You do that is because you don't have confidence in what they're doing, and that's a shame. But to get in those situations, I've got if they would just listen to one thing, if the Razorback coaches on offense would listen to one thing, here's the one thing: play action on first down. That's it. If you just do one thing. Play action on first down. It's the single most efficient play in the game of football. It is worth the most. And then you can throw it short of the sticks, but then 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 4 turns into, even if you have another bad play, 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 4, and we're pretty good at those.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is they've got to do play. We're so predictable, and you know that. We're so predictable in so many ways that we've got to utilize. I mean, how do we not look at the analytics and go, man, we're bad at this. Mm-hmm. Let's do this differently, or man, look what works in all of college football. Let's do that. And that's where we've got to be. But I hate to see that drives everybody crazy. Does it not? When you it's 3rd and 8 and you throw a 4-yard pass and he gets tackled for 6 yards, we go punt. And you're like, what the freak? I guess that's a little better to line up in a shotgun on 4th and 1 and, run it up the middle. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's where we are.
And I thought this Saturday night, I was sitting in my living room watching the game, and my oldest is 20. Okay. He's only seen in 20 years, I think he's only seen us have winning seasons 5 times, maybe 6, in 20 years. I'm 44, by the way. But I had a thought, and I remembered back to the second 4-7 season that Houston Nutt had. And that I was like, I don't know how he kept his job. Like I was ready to move on at that point. Like, let's do something different. But I can remember, and I had this thought, I can almost tell you what Dan Enos is going to do depending on the yard and distance at this point in the season. Like I can almost call it. And I'm not a professional.
And if you can.
Yeah.
Do you think the other coaches can?
Yeah. I'm just some old redneck that knows a little bit about football, that's got some good connections with certain people. And I've learned a lot over the years. But if I can see this, what does Kirby Smart see? What does Nick Saban? Because you know how Nick Saban is. I mean, you've seen he's got books, like stacks. I mean, in his coach's meeting room on these different teams. I've seen them in person. It's insane the detail that goes into somebody like Saban works, but it's just I don't know. I know Hog fans are frustrated. the message boards and of course the Twitter machine. I've had to kind of avoid the Twitter machine a little bit. I'm trying to do positive only, like not sunshine pump for the hogs, but I'm doing positive message on the Twitter machine right now because I'm trying to stay away from the negativity. I mean, it's getting a little hot. I mean, the dials Saturday, is going to say a lot about, I think, where this team's going to go the rest of the season. Sierra, is if I don't expect them to win. I just expect them to be competitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I think they will be. I know Alabama's about a 19.5-point favorite, which is a bit discouraging, but Ole Miss was also an 11.5-point favorite, I believe. So the Hogs they've covered the spread if you're into that kind of thing, but that's not what results in wins. So I think they'll keep it competitive. It's just, it seems on the road they do struggle with the false start issues. Like I know in Baton Rouge, that was a problem. A&M, of course, there was no penalties. They didn't struggle with that neutral site. And then in Ole Miss, a crowd away from home, another hostile environment at night, they struggled with that. So, Bama's an 11 a.m. game, so maybe they might not deal with as much of a hostile crowd, but it's Alabama. So hopefully they can play on the road and get not only a win on the road for once, but an SEC win, because it's frustrating to think that they haven't won an SEC game yet.
Matt, don't tell. I mean, we don't expect to see Sierra to have to watch our show, but tell her how we should deal with the crowd noise. Do you remember?
Silent count.
Silent snap count. Yep. What are we doing? It drives me insane. We haven't done it any, and that is the answer. That's the answer. Gosh, just silent snap count. Just silent snap count. If I got one in a regular game at home, we went silent snap count. You can't get an illegal motion penalty on a silent snap count. And we haven't done it one time. We lead the world in illegal motion penalties, and we won't try a silent snap count. I'd like to go paint it in the middle of the field. Silent snap count, play action pass, quit holding the ball, break.
Well, real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, primary sponsor, Barley and Vine. If you're in Bentonville, Arkansas, or in Northwest Arkansas this weekend and want a place to watch the game, go up and see our friends at Barley and Vine in downtown Bentonville. If you're ready for mouth-watering tavern-style pizza and a drink menu that'll make you say cheers, head downtown Bentonville and see our friends at Barley and Vine. They specialize in the hottest craft pizzas in Northwest Arkansas, ranging from banging cheese pies to their chef-inspired specialty pies. You can't find them anywhere else, but that's not all. Barley and Vine has 32 different kind of beers on tap, featuring local brewery favorites and a carefully curated selection of regional craft beers. But maybe you're more of a wine person. They got you covered. They have a choice selection of wine from around the globe. And don't miss out on their pint and slice combo on Friday and Saturday nights. Get a slice of their house pizza and the featured beer of the week for $7. You're not going to find a deal like that anywhere else in Northwest Arkansas. Make your way to Barley and Vine, where pizza, beer, and wine live in perfect harmony. Their interest extends past food and beer, though. At Barley and Vine, they're all about that Big Pig energy, and they support the Razorbacks every time they take the field. If you go in there this weekend and you mention Big Pig energy and you buy a full price entree, you get a pizza dip for free, which is a really cool deal. So mention Big Pig when you go in, and I know Trish and the guys at Barley and Vine appreciate it. Diving into the Crimson Tide, for me, because I've lived in Alabama so long, I think that's why I'm dead inside, Coach. My wife says I'm like a misfit toy, like I'm broken on the inside. And I think it's Alabama that has done it to me. We have not beaten Alabama since 2006. So my son is 17. I took him to his first Alabama-Arkansas game last year in Fayetteville. I was sure, because I was at the last one in Fayetteville when we won in 2006. I had not been back to Alabama, Arkansas in Fayetteville since 2006. I was sure that was going to break the curse last year. Didn't happen. Arkansas is actually Bama's favorite at home by 19.5. The over and under is 46.5. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff, which I'll tell you something. A lot of folks complain about the crowd in Fayetteville being country club. In Alabama, there's two things right now. They're spoiled because they've won too much. And they're as country club gets about 11 o'clock kickoffs. They don't like them. They don't like show up for them. Nick Saban gets mad. I guarantee you next Monday he's going to complain about the students not being there on time. He's going to complain about people leaving early because they're going to go to a party because it's homecoming. So it's going to be an interesting thing. It's 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPN. Coach, diving into this, and I really looked at the numbers. If you take the logos away and you just look at the stats, they're not that far apart. They're really not. Offensively and defensively, these teams kind of mirror each other, statistically speaking.
Except for one stat. Matt.
Yep.
The win-loss column.
That's right.
That's a stat.
That's
a stat. But I know what you're saying. They've struggled at quarterback. They've gone around the rotation. Texas made them question themselves. They've settled in on Jalen Milroe. He's a pretty good player running the football. He throws the ball deep extremely well. He had more 20-yard passes last week than anybody in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so they've just now figured – what scares me about this game is they've just now figured out what he can do, mm-hmm. and they're starting to call plays around that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they continue to do that, we're in a little bit of trouble, and they played a good schedule. We played a good schedule. But I'm worried if we don't get off to a good start in this game, they could beat us 35 points. Mm-hmm. But if we get off to a good start, I think, and what I mean by that is, after the first quarter and a half, first 20 minutes of the game,
mm-hmm.
if we're off to a good start and still within a touchdown, I think it might be a close game, and we might have some weird, crazy chance to do something at the end. But I am worried to death if we happen to get down 2 quick scores, 10 points, and turn the ball over and something like that. I'm worried this game could get away really quickly.
I was there in '97. We went down there. They were 11th in the country, and Clint Sterner hit Eubanks at the end of the game to win. And that first time we'd ever done it back to back. So we did it in '96, we did it in '97, or '95, '97 in Tuscaloosa. So it was kind of a wild thing. The thing that concerns me the most about this game is these two things. Alabama's defensive front is probably the best, most talented defensive front we're going to see all year. Texas A&M's was pretty good. They were good. Let's just give them the credit. They were pretty good. I really thought A&M was going to have a shot because I still think Alabama's going to lose a couple more games for the year's out. But I really thought that A&M's front seven was really good. I think Alabama's is just a little bit better. Dallas Turner is a really good football player. He's disciplined. He loves to get after the quarterback. I don't know if our offensive line, and I'd love to get Cierra and Coach's take on this, I don't know that our offensive line is going to be able to do enough to keep KJ clean to give him an opportunity. They're going to load the box on us and try to stop. They're not going to let us run.
Yeah, against Ole Miss, it was. I felt bad for KJ because he looked like he was running for his life. He got sacked, I believe, 5 times against the Rebels. And like you said, this Alabama defense is probably the toughest that the Hogs will face all year. And yeah, it's not. I'm hoping for maybe they change something up in practice, but I don't think it's gonna look too good offensively. I think it'll be kind of like a repeat of the last game, because what I think is if the Hogs haven't fixed their problems on offense by now, I don't really see much of it changing as we're halfway done. So yeah, hopefully they found something up. But yeah, Alabama, their defense, they don't allow a lot of points. So it's that Saban defense that we've seen for years and years now.
I'm looking for hope right now on my phone. Here's hope. Does Alabama play somebody next week that they might look past us on? That's where I'm reaching for. Let me see. Y'all know who Alabama plays next week?
I'm fixing to.
They play Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee's ranked 19th.
It's a rivalry game too, Coach.
That gives us a little hope. I hate to say it, but that gives us a little bit of hope. But Sierra, I think you're right. I mean, if the offenses look like this when we haven't played Alabama, what in the world should we think it's going to change this week of all things? And because I still think Saban looks at last year and goes, look, these guys played us close. Mm-hmm. And if we mess around, this could happen. So I think it's going to be tough for them to overlook us. Our only hope would have been if Auburn was next week because they look past everybody. But I think Saban always schedules like, Tennessee, East Tech or somebody like that before that game because he knows they're going to overlook them. But, the hope is, but like y'all both talked about, the defensive line's so good. If we go in with the exact same dumb offensive game plan to hold the ball back there for 10 seconds, KJ's going to be getting killed. And we're not going to move the ball effectively because sacks kill drives. We've talked about that analytically on here before. We got to run quick game. If we're going to throw the ball, we got to run slants. We got to set picks, make the ref throw some flags on us, that kind of stuff. Because Alabama's defensive line is probably, A&M's was good. You're right, Matt. It's a rival. That was close. Yeah. But Alabama's probably a little bit better, and that doesn't bode well for us.
Alabama, if you look at their front three, four guys, there's, I think, 1 4-star, 2 5-stars right there. You add in the linebackers, and it just kind of expounds from there. It's a wealth of issues as far as, what their front seven's been able to do this year. They've kept Alabama in games. They've won that South Florida game in Tampa. The defense did because the offense couldn't do nothing that day. If the defense hadn't shown up, they'd have caught a loss to a team they should never lose to. Herm Edwards said one time, you play to win the game. I look at this Alabama team, and I've said this all year, and I tell my Alabama friends this every time I talk to them. This team is as beatable now as I've seen them be beatable since Nick Saban took over his first 2 years, 07, 08. Like, they're as beatable as I think they've ever been. They don't have the receivers that they had, 4 or 5 years ago. They don't have the stud running backs that they've had in the last 5 to 10 years. They definitely don't have the quarterback that they've had in the last 2 or 3 years. You think about it, they had, and these guys are all in the NFL playing football right now. Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa. That's just the 3 guys that are starting. There's, A.J. McCarron still playing ball somewhere. I think he's signed on with the Raiders or somebody as a backup. John Parker Wilson selling insurance now. But you look at the guys that are, and I know John Parker, that's why I say that tongue in cheek. But it's a situation where it's just a wealth of talent. And it scares me for the Razorbacks because I look at this and I go, I always, me, Coach, I'm a hopeful, but I'm also a realist, and my heart says I want us to go in there. We're going to win the game, but it's not enough for me to drive 90 minutes down the road to go watch it. And I live 90 minutes from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I'm not going to watch this game. And I told Sierra before the show, Coach, I'm not going because I've seen this movie before. It's like watching Die Hard for the 50th time, and I know when the guy's going to fall out the window. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of the way I feel. So I look at this. Arkansas in a turnovers and penalties have been the 2 biggest stories for the Hogs. Arkansas is +4 in the turnover margin. Alabama's generated 9 takeaways this year, tied for 3rd in the league with a +3 turnover margin. Arkansas has got to take good care of the football, and they're not fumbling, knock on wood. We're throwing interceptions. And I knew, and Coach, we talked about this, I felt like when Dan Enos got here that KJ's interception totals might go up a little bit just because of the way that Coach Enos calls the ball game and the way things are with his offense. But I sure didn't expect him to throw, 6 in 6 games.
No, and I don't think anybody did. And like Sierra said earlier, they were getting so pumped at SEC Media Days. Rocket Sanders and KJ, Arkansas people and a few media people were talking about possible Heisman candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And you look and see what both guys are doing. And again, I tend to blame coaches more than players. I think it's the coach's job to get the players to perform. You picked them, you recruited them, you got them here, you saw something in them. And if you're seeing something in them and you got them out there playing, your job is to work around what they can do. And right now we're not doing that. But I don't know what I would say to the team other than take response. The coaches should walk in there and say, guys, this is our fault. Here's a chance for us to redeem our season. It doesn't, I mean, it's not going to put us in the best bowl game or whatever, but you go beat Alabama. That starts us on a little confident trend. Now we can make a run. If we can beat them, we can beat anybody left on our schedule. And we can still salvage this thing. We can still, I mean, the world turns brighter if you beat Alabama. A lot of sins are forgiven over the past 3 weeks. And like you said, we may not see Alabama this beatable again in our lifetimes.
Yes.
Like you said, quarterback, running back. Who's their stud on offense right now? Who are we fearful of? And we've always been fearful of somebody. Who are we fearful of on offense? On defense, I'm a little scared of all of them.
Yeah.
They can still make plays. They're still rock solid. But they're not even that of what they have been. They're not going to have 3 defensive tackles drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. They're not going to, have 2 linebackers that are going to go in the first round. They're as beatable as they've ever been. So we've still got a chance. But I'm anxious to see when they come out how well our coaches have done in making them believe that's possible. And you'll see it. And by the end of the first quarter, you're going to know if our guys think they have a chance or not. And to me, that's what I would go all out, buying them in, trying to get them to buy in on we can still salvage the season with a win right here. Just for once, every single play, try to be smart and be quick and don't hesitate and see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And I hope they take that. I've said it all year. I've said it on my radio show. I've said it on this. Can we please be the ones that play like we've got nothing to lose, run some trick plays, throw the ball intermediately down the field, get it out quick, run another trick play. 3 things happen on trick play, and 2 of them are good. It goes opposite of the old adage of 3 things happen on a pass, 2 of them are bad, incompletion, and interception. On a trick play, it either works and it's great, or it doesn't work, but they're still hesitant about coming downhill so fast because they're like, crap. They may start pitching the ball around, look up, and it's going down the field on us. They may change the direction with a double reverse or something. And I just want to play like we've got nothing to lose and just see how that goes, because we don't look like we're playing like we have nothing to lose at any point in any ball game so far. BYU played like they had nothing to lose. They're running trick plays, and 2 of them were big gainers and touchdowns. Why are we not trying some of that stuff? I have no idea.
Well, and, Coach Pittman pulled that out last year. I mean, the onside kick coming out of the second half, Pooh Paul lays out. I can't remember the kid's name, but he cleans this kid out on a kickoff. And we recover the ball, run down, score. And then, Milroe comes in the game and runs one right up the gut and busts it for, I think, 85 yards and scores a touchdown, just completely sucked the air out of Reynolds Razorback Stadium. Looking at this game, injury-wise, we're down one of our top playmakers. Luke Haas is out for the year, unfortunately. The kid was really playing well. We got 4 defensive starters that are questionable: Jalen Braxton, Alfahim Walcott, Chris Pupal, and Cam Ball. I can't stress enough how important it is to have Pupal playing Saturday. But Saturday night, that was a scary moment for 2-7, because he went over top of the guy, landed on the crown of his head. You could clearly tell he was struggling when he was walking off, and really he's been on my mind all week. But I think they're expected to have Nudie McLaughlin back Saturday is kind of what I'm hearing. And then on the Alabama side, I know their punter is out. Malachi Moore, who's a local Birmingham kid that I saw play a lot in high school, he's listed as a game time decision. He's got a high ankle sprain. That could be beneficial for us because the guy behind him is not great and hadn't played a whole lot. But they both sustained injuries against A&M last week. And I think Saban said in a presser this week that Ja'Cory Brooks has been back at practice, which that one kind of worries me too. But if we got Nudie coming back, I like that matchup of Ja'Cory Brooks and Nudie McLaughlin on the outside edge. But, at the end of the day, it's this 16-game losing streak. And Matt Haig, and is somebody that I really like. Ryan Russell is a professor at Penn State. He's actually in hospice care right now, and he posted this back in March, and I retweeted it. It says, "Nothing is stronger than a small hope that doesn't give up." And I think you hit the nail on the head, Coach. He's got to get these kids to believe that they can go down there and compete on Saturday, or it could be a 52-0 ball game, like real quick.
Yeah, Sierra, I don't know how long you've been in Arkansas, and I know you did some sideline reporting for Florida and all that, but can you remember when you were close to a team? Can you remember if you really worried, have you ever worried about the Gators or your team going out there and not believing they could win?
I've been when I was a student, I went through several 4-8 seasons. So I do believe they kind of had that mentality. Sometimes the players, they just kind of give up, I think, or especially now with the transfer portal, which it can be beneficial, but I think some players might be like, screw this. Like, I don't care anymore. Not to blame the players either, but I can just go play for someone else. Coach, I don't like this coaching mentality, but you can't transfer in the middle of the year and start playing. You got to finish this year out. And so you might as well just go out with a bang, really, and just prove people wrong.
Yeah, and then to me though, I've gotten to see that firsthand. Things aren't going the way you want. Even if sometimes, in some cases, even when the season's going good for the team, kids still like, it's not going well for me, and they kind of cash out. And you just look and you go, the portal. You're right, makes it so much easier now. When the season's going bad, just start looking forward to next year. Some of them even going, I want to save my body for next year, or I'm going to save my body for the NFL. The bad thing is every one of those coaches every one of those players think they're going to be in the NFL. I mean, it's crazy right now. Kids that aren't even getting on the field just think the coaches are overlooking them. They're going to get in the NFL. And they start with that mentality. And a coach, you have to battle that. And I think our coaches are battling that on top of they're too worried about what the media is asking them in the media. They're too worried about what the fans are putting on Twitter. It's like, holy freak, fellas, you got paid to do a job. Do your job and don't worry about this other stuff. And you better focus on your kids, or you're going to lose them. And I think that's what's happened a little bit. They've lost some of them because they were focused on exterior things. It's easy to happen. It's easy to get distracted. We see it even if you turn off your Twitter or your social media. Sometimes your buddies are taking pictures and sending it to you. Do you see what they're saying? And you can't get away from it some, but you've still got to go, that's not my focus. You got to laser focus, and all that's peripheral stuff. And until we do that, we're never going to see the coaches coach like they can, the players play like they're capable of, but that's part of what it takes to be a coach and help these guys and your staff reach their potential. And until we do, we're going to trot out there and have penalties and look like we're either hesitating with the ball or not blocking well or missing tackle, all that kind of crap. It's depressing when the season hopes were so high at the beginning.
Yeah. And one thing that I listen to Coach Pittman's presser every Monday. Like I tune in on the Zoom, I listen to it because I want to hear what he's got to say, because, some of us coach speak, but every once in a while I get a nugget of something out of him. And something he said Monday kind of, I want to say it bothered me, but it made the back of my brain itch, Coach. And you're gonna know why here in just a second. He said, you don't have to play perfect, but you got to play really good. You have to get off the bus and think that you're going to win. That's the biggest battle, the name on the helmet. The word that bothered me the most is the word think. My daddy always said, you don't think, you better know. You got to know that you can win. You got to believe. And that word think, that leaves doubt in my mind. As a fan, that leaves doubt in my mind because the way I was raised, the way that I operate, thinking ain't just enough. You got to believe. And when I see the body language out of some of the kids, I get kind of down because you can tell some of them are just beat up. They're frustrated. You can look at KJ. I mean, bless his heart, he looks aggravated half the time. I mean, he does not look like he's having fun. And that's the one thing, Coach, I got a kid plays at Russellville, the Cyclones. And the one thing I tell him is have fun. Sunday through Thursday, that's the work stuff. Friday nights when you get to go have fun with your buddies, go have fun. That's the stuff that go have fun. Sunday through Friday, that's the work stuff. These guys should be able to go out on Saturday and have fun. And you can tell specifically offensively, they're just not having fun playing football right now. And we talked about the mental health stuff a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to dive into that too deep, but I just think that belief is that silent power behind your actions. And it's that thing that shapes and fuels your passion. And I want to see belief out of this offense Saturday. If they, like you said, I think if they come out in the first half and they're close and Alabama's not clicking, because they struggle 11 o'clock games. Georgia Southern came in there a couple of years ago in an 11 o'clock game and put, I think, almost 600 yards of offense on them, which that's triple option, all that stuff. But it was not pretty. But it's still, I don't know. I want to get weird.
Matt, here's you're right on the belief thing. There's three kinds of teams that walk into a game.
Yep.
And, I had to get, when I was at PA, I had to get our teams to have this mentality, because we went and played in California and Texas and Oklahoma and Kentucky and Florida and Georgia. I mean, all over. And if you don't have this mentality, you really have no shot. There's three kinds of teams. When we walk off the bus, ones that think they're going to win. Mm-hmm. There's ones that hope they're going to win. And then my teams, for some dumb reason, knew they were going to win. Mm-hmm. And when you know you're going to win, even if you get down, you still have the confidence and you don't hesitate and you don't make mistakes because you still know you're going to win. It's an extreme confidence. If you just hope you're going to win, it goes bad and you're done. Mm-hmm. If you think you're going to win, that means you do unless something goes bad. Ref makes a bad call, one turnover, buddy misses a tackle, whatever. But if you know you're going to win, it allows you to make mistakes because of the confidence that you have to come back. And people, I know that's an intangible thing, but lack of confidence causes hesitation. If your linebacker hesitates and he sees the quarterback put the ball in the belly of the running back, and he's like, God, maybe he's going to pull it out and do a play action pass. Well, then the back's to him in the open field, and it makes it harder to tackle him. If the quarterback hesitates because he got picked off last time on the same play, on the same throw, and he hesitates, probably going to get picked off again, because if his guy was open by a yard, he's not open anymore. Confidence is big because of the things that it causes that come with it. And you've gotta know you're going to win. You can't hope you're going to win, because hope is not a strategic plan. It's just hope.
Yeah, my daddy used to tell me that all the time. Hope is not a plan. Hope is a wish. Hope is vapor. Yeah. You got to know. Real quick, want to hit our last ad, and then we're going to get into Coach Kelley's pick'em. I won't even talk about the records because I think I've got to lose them. Lifestyle Print Company, Better Mind, Better Body, also known as BMBB Lifestyle, established in 2016, founded and based out of Vancouver, Washington. Big time supporter of Big Pig Energy. Started as a men's mental health group, but now leads the community in mental health awareness through service projects and custom apparel. BMBB is a lifestyle, not just a brand. Go check them out, www.bmbblifestyle.com. They have Big Pig Energy apparel on there, T-shirts for the show. We've also got a Twitter smack-off battle going on with 12 individuals from Twitter that have shirts with hashtags on the front. One of them says, True Fan Jessica, it's one of our friends of the show. I think it says hashtag hello ladies is something she says all the time. Coaches says hashtag Coach Never Punts. Mine says hashtag Sasquatch. All the money raised from the sales of these T-shirts, well, I should say all, the profits from the sales of these T-shirts are going directly to the Fayetteville Boys and Girls Club. Help us support that organization in Northwest Arkansas. It's one of the most underfunded boys and girls clubs in the state. We want to try to help these guys before Christmas. So help us out. We're going to run that through the 2nd of December. Still up for sale. Shirts are $30. Like I said, $18 a shirt's going to the Boys and Girls Club Northwest Arkansas. Help us out with that. bmbblifestyle.com. Thank you, Philly, out in Vancouver. Good friend of mine, friend of the program. Coach Kelley's pick'em. Like I said, Coach is kicking my tail. I think he's like 10 games up on me right now. I'm not even going to get into the record because it's ugly, and I think I'm either at 500 or I'm a couple games below. First game on the stick, and this is one I'm really looking forward to, Coach. Oregon versus Washington at UW. Sierra, kind of how this goes. I'm going to read the over and under in the line, but this is a straight pick 'em. I'm going to go to you first and go to Coach, and then I'll go last.
I think Oregon, they've been pretty dominant most of the year. I think Oregon will get this one.
Coach?
Washington's going to beat them like they stole something.
I went back and forth. Washington is actually favored by 3 at home, over and under 66.5. I got a little over impressed with Oregon's defense, what they were able to do to Colorado, but Colorado was not offensively. They're one of they're more penalized offensively than we are. Let's put it that way. I didn't think there was anybody in the Power Five that was as bad as we are offensively on penalties, but Colorado is. I'm with Coach. I think Washington, Michael Penix is probably going to be the top quarterback coming out of the draft this year. Mechanically, that kid is a freak. I'm really impressed with UW. Don't think they're going to be a playoff. I mean, they may make a playoff, but I don't think they're going to win a national championship or anything. But I do think they're going to beat the Ducks. Texas A&M at Tennessee. UT is favored -3, over and under is 55. A&M's coming off a heartbreaking loss to Alabama. Sierra, what do you think about the Aggies and the Vols?
I think Texas A&M. Personally, I'm also biased on this because Florida was able to beat Tennessee, and I think Texas A&M is better than Florida. I know the law of transitive property doesn't always work in college football, but Texas A&M's defense was really impressive, and I think they'll be able to shut Tennessee down. Tennessee isn't the Tennessee they were last year.
I'm impressed that Sierra pulled out the law of transitive property. I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm glad. I appreciate that, though. But you're right; it doesn't always work in football. I think Texas A&M is got the defensive line to rush forward, not have to blitz, and get to the quarterback in that passing game. Then I think Bobby Petrino can manufacture enough points to help win that game. I personally wish they had not lost that second game, so they'd be competing for something good and give everybody a little bit of scare. It makes the SEC look better, but I think Texas A&M wins the game.
I was looking at this. The under and over is 55. And if I was a betting man, I think I'd take the over, because Heupel's going to try to get wild and throw the ball around. Bobby Petrino's going to try to do what he does. And I think as far as young play callers go, I think Heupel is one of the better ones in the business right now as far as young guys. But his offense is a little weird. He does some really crazy stuff with his receivers and gets his running backs involved. But if this game was at night, I would pick Tennessee all day, just because Knoxville is a crazy place at night. But I think A&M bounce backs this week. I think they do. But I would take A&M in the over.
Did all three of us take A&M?
We did.
Well, that's something.
Yeah, that rarely happens.
Yeah.
I picked this game for my girl Courtney Mims and Cierra Clark. Florida at USC. South Carolina's favored -2. Can't remember the last time that they were favored in a game against Florida at South Carolina. Over and under is 52.5. Sierra, you got the Gators or you got the Gamecocks?
Gosh, it's a tough one. I will say I would take the over in this one, just because we have two quarterbacks with strong arms with Spencer Rattler and Grant Mertz. Grant Mertz has been really accurate this year. So I'll take the over in it. Who's going to win? I think South Carolina. Florida has not been good on the road this year. Like, we struggled at Kentucky. They have not really been under Billy Napier, unfortunately. They just have not been a great road team. And so I think South Carolina has I've never been to Columbia, but it seems like a great environment up there. And I think the Gamecocks will kind of take advantage of that.
The fact that Florida beat Tennessee makes me think they're capable of playing really well. Then I remember back at the Utah game, they looked like they didn't know how to play football. They thought they showed up for soccer or something. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with the home team. When it's a toss-up, go with the home team, and I think it is a toss-up. I think Spencer Rattler is capable of beating anybody. If he puts a whole full game together, he's put together a couple of good halves this year, but not a full game. But I'm going to go with South Carolina too.
I really looked at this game hard. I really did, because South Carolina just got droned last weekend against Tennessee, at Tennessee, 41-20. Florida did what they were supposed to and beat the breaks off of Vandy 38-14. I like Florida going into William Bryce Stadium. If it was a night game in Columbia, because I've been to Columbia at night, I would give the lean towards South Carolina. But I'm actually picking the Gators. I like what Billy Napier's doing with this football team. I like Billy Napier a lot as a coach. They stubbed their toe. I mean, you said they got beat by Kentucky. They didn't get beat. They got murdered. Kentucky took some aggression out. I mean, first time in 45 or 48 years that Kentucky's beat Florida in 3 straight times, or 3 years. It's like the mid 70s or something. It's ridiculous. The other USC, as I like to call them, they're traveling up to South Bend, playing Notre Dame. Notre Dame's favored -3 at home, over and under a 60. Notre Dame's coming off probably their worst game against Louisville, upset win against Louisville last weekend. USC had to go to overtime to beat Colorado. This one's going to be an interesting ball game because you got 2 of the best quarterbacks in the country in Sam and Caleb Williams. So Sierra, you got the Trojans or the Irish?
Did you say it was at home or in South Bend?
South Bend at Notre Dame.
I think they'll redeem themselves this one. I think Notre Dame will take it. What was the line again? Did you say the line?
-3.
Oh yeah, I'll take the home team with this one. Redemption game for them, and South Carolina, or thinking of the other USC, Southern Cal. I think they'll put up a fight, but I think Notre Dame will take this one. I think it's a redemption game for them.
Coach,
this game is going to go like all of USC's games. They're going to come out, kick them in the teeth early with their fast-paced offense. They're going to get a big lead, 20, 24 points. And they're going to have to hang on for dear life at the end because their defense is not great, and they play a lot of dumb defenses once they get a lead. But USC will win the game at Notre Dame.
So ESPN's FPI predictors got Notre Dame by 62%, which I thought was wild. I really thought it would be closer. Sam Hartman, I really like Sam Hartman. I really do. I think if your buddy Belichick's not looking at him come draft time, I think he's doing something wrong. But because I like Hartman as a pocket guy, I like him as a game manager. He's got a strong arm. He's tough. Plus he's got a great beard. I mean, the guy's got an awesome beard. My brother-in-law is a Notre Dame guy. He's from South Bend.
And great hair. Great hair. Yeah,
he's got great hair too. I got to go with Notre Dame in this game, Coach. I know you're. But I can't go against the Irish in this game. I feel like USC is, again, offensively, they're as explosive and exciting to watch as anybody in the country. But just like Lincoln Riley's teams at Oklahoma, they don't play any defense. And you can't play defense and expect to win a lot of football games because you're going to play some teams. Notre Dame's offense is good. They're really good. I think they had an off week last week against Louisville. I mean, they're averaging a little over 437 yards a game. Of course, USC's averaging 523, but Notre Dame plays defense. They aren't allowing 279 yards a game on their defense. So I think it's going to be a defensive matchup. I think Notre Dame's going to end up pulling it out at home. Another game that's kind of interesting me. Miami is going to UNC in Chapel Hill. The Tar Heels are -3 favorites at home, over and under 57. Sierra, I know it's another Florida team, and I know most Florida fans hate Miami. You got the Hurricanes or the Tar Heels?
Kind of interesting because a lot of Florida fans, I feel like, that absolutely hate the Canes are more of the older Florida fans because we don't really play Miami that much. We only played them, I think, my freshman year of college, and then once when I was covering the team. But I know a lot of the players, like, they know each other because South Florida is a big recruiting area. But anyways, back to your point, I don't know if I can trust Miami anymore, just off of that crap that happened last week. It's just like, I don't know if I have faith in Mario Cristobal and his play calling anymore. I think that, I mean, they beat Texas A&M pretty convincingly at home, and then Georgia Tech, which is not a team that normally will put up a fight against traditional Miami. And so I think I'm taking North Carolina with this one.
By the way, Matt, you didn't mention it, so you must not have seen how they lost that game. Did you see it?
Did. And I've read
they've got if they take a knee,
yeah,
the play clock is under 40 seconds and the ball game is over. And he runs the ball. And it would be dumb enough if he didn't run the ball. This is the second time the man's done it in 3 years and lost a game that way. He did it at Oregon too. Exact same scenario. Exactly. All he's got to do is take a knee. What are you gaining? What reward? Life is risk reward. Football is risk reward. What is the reward for running the ball up the middle when you could take a knee to win? There's no reward.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to score, that's not the play you would run.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an idiot. And I'm like, Sierra, I want to pick Miami for this game bad. Mm-hmm. I can't do it just because that's so freaking stupid. And if you're doing that stupid of things, go grab a wasp and let it sting you once, but go grab it again and you're an idiot. And I can't. It's hard for me to pick idiots, and I'm not going to here. So I'm picking UNC.
Well, here's the interesting thing that I think is going to happen, because the ACC's done away with their coastal, whatever it was, divisions, and kind of like the SEC is going to do next year. This may come down. I think UNC wins this game. I really do. I like what Mike Brown's built at North Carolina. He's got Gene Chizik as a defensive assistant coach, kind of a defensive co-coordinator. They're doing some really cool things defensively at North Carolina. The kids seem to like it. Mac's 80 years old now, 85, 102. I don't know.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, he's got a couple. Yeah, he's a hell of a lot better coach than his brother Watson. I would say that. Shout out Watson Brown, UAB in the 90s. But I want to see UNC and Florida State in a championship for the ACC, because, and the reason I say that is this: I want to see something good for Mac Brown, because Mac Brown's a classy guy. He's genuine. He's a nice man. I like what he's doing at UNC. I'm interested to see if they can continue kind of that momentum, because it seems like every couple of years he'll get that team to like 5 or 6 or 7-0, and then they just have a complete brain fart and lose to somebody they're not supposed to. So I think they're going to be -3 seemed a little much, or a little too least. I mean, I really think it's going to be more like a touchdown, because I don't trust Cristobal's offensive coordinator not to do something stupid. Missouri at Kentucky. UK's favored -2.5. After just absolutely their break speed off by Georgia last weekend. Over and under's 50.5. Missouri, got shocked at home by LSU, because LSU was not favored in that game. Coach, I think you picked LSU last week in that game. Sierra, what do you think? The Tigers or the Wildcats?
You said it's at Kentucky, right?
Yeah, it's Lexington, Kentucky. It's a night game too.
Ooh.
6:30 at night. And I think they're doing the checkerboard stuff in the stadium, so it's going to be kind of interesting.
I think I want to say Kentucky in this one. I'm going with the home teams a lot. Kentucky or Mizzou hasn't really had, most of their impressive wins have come at home. And it's just going to be interesting to see how they're tested against the Wildcats. The Wildcats have an impressive offense. But so does Mizzou this year. And so I think if we're taking the over, what was the over under?
50.5.
50.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would take the over for this one probably too.
Coach, I know how you feel about Elisha up there in Como. Do you think he might be bounce back after getting a 10-point loss? I mean, Brady Cook. I mean, he stared that guy down from LSU at the end of the game. Stared to safety or the linebacker right down, threw it right to him. So
the problem is, it's tough to get back up after a game like that. They got up for LSU. They played the heck out of them for 3 quarters. It's really emotionally tough to get back up, especially after you lost that. People in Arkansas don't like. I don't know why they don't like Eli. Good football coach, better man, smart dude. He must be smart. He had me up there in March, so that's pretty smart on his part. I'm kidding. But I'm going with him again. I'm going Missouri again. Going with Eli in the squad. And I hope they beat Kentucky, because you know how you always hate certain teams. I hate Kentucky.
Yeah, I hear you. Sierra, you said Mizzou, right?
Kentucky,
okay.
Yeah, she did not go with Missouri. I would have said thank you to her.
I am not a believer. I still am not a believer in Missouri. The only thing that gives me pause about this game is Devin Leary. Devin Leary's threw 5 interceptions through 6 games. Kentucky is averaging 151 yards on the ground. Missouri's only allowing 108. My family's going to love what I'm fixing to say, because I got a bunch of kinfolk in Southeast Missouri that are Mizzou grads. I think Missouri's going to win this game on the road, and I think it's going to be close. The line's 2.5. I think it's moved actually to 2 points. I think it's going to be like a 1-point ball game. I think it's going to come down to some fluke play. I think Missouri is going to walk in there defensively and really just beat on Kentucky some more after what they went through at Athens last week. Mark Stoops' teams do not seem to do well the week after getting beat by Georgia. And Georgia's as physical a football team as anybody in the conference is going to play. They're not as good as they were the last couple of years, but they're still pretty good. So I got Mizzou winning on the road to get that 6th win and get bowl eligible. Last game on the slate, it's one everybody cares about, depending on which side of the table you're on. Hogs go down to Tuscaloosa Saturday, 11 o'clock kickoff. It's homecoming down in T-Town. The homecoming parade, Coach, starts at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning in Tuscaloosa. I got some friends, their daughter is a majorette. She was telling us that she has to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get ready, to get all her stuff on and hair done and eyelash. I've watched it on TikTok. It's a trip. Takes her 4 hours to get ready to go get. I mean, these girls wear more makeup than Navy SEALs do going to do SEAL Team 6 stuff. Bama's favored by 19.5 at home. Over and under is 46.5, which I think is low. Sierra, who you got? You got the Hogs or you got Alabama? And if you would, give me a score.
Surprising that first off, homecoming, the parade is on the same day as the game. At Florida, we had Friday was the parade and then Saturday was the game. Anyways, I think Bama will win this one, but remind me of the spread again.
19.5.
19.5.
19.5. I think the Hogs will cover for sure. I think it'll be, let's go 13 Arkansas, 24-13.
Coach.
$34-6.
That's kind of what I thought you were going to say.
You didn't even ask me who I thought was going to win.
Oh, I know who you're going to say is going to win.
Because I want to win our pick'em, so I'm going with the team that's really going to win.
Yeah,
34-6. It might be 37-10. No, hey, change mine to 37-10. I'm gonna go 37-10. Surely we can punch one in. I was thinking we'd get 2 field goals. Surely when they put the scrubs in, we can punch one in.
I'm going to be honest with you, and this is hard for me to say. I am not confident in what we're doing offensively to believe that KJ is one of 2 things going to happen. And this is where I'm at. I'm not confident enough that KJ's got a quick enough release to get the ball out fast enough with what they're doing offensively against Alabama's defensive line, number one. Number two, what concerns me, and this has happened before, we've gone down there, played early, quarterback get knocked out, second team guy comes in and just goes to pieces. And I don't want to see that happen to Jacoby either.
I don't either.
Because I really like Jacoby. I think Jacoby's the future for us next year. And I want to see Jacoby be upright and clean and good. And I want to try to get him on the program before the year's out. So, want good things. I think Bama's going to win. I don't think we're going to score. I really don't. I'm at 20-0. I think the defense is going to do everything they can to keep it under 25 points. I'm just not confident enough with the way our offensive line's played, the lack of a running game, the length of time. And I've been counting it, Coach. I've been using my stopwatch, like I went all the way back to BYU. Like when I really started noticing it was BYU, how long he was holding the ball. Because I'm like you, I know how quickly NFL guys get the ball out of there. Like Tom Brady was like, 1.9 when in his heyday, he was like 1.9.
Oh, yeah. He was right around 2 seconds. Yeah, a lot of times.
I mean, it just different. And when I see KJ going 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, like I counted one game, he went all the way up to an 8 Mississippi and he's still holding the ball in the pocket. You do that against Alabama with Dallas Turner and some of the guys they've got up front, you're going to get killed. Or we're going to get a crap ton of penalties, one or the other, or the combination. So and a lot of folks are going to be like, I can't believe you said we're not going to score. I think we're going to get shut out. I'm worried about this game leading into next week with homecoming with Mississippi State. Mississippi State's not great. They're not good. They're very beatable. We should win that game 9 times out of 10 based on what I've seen out of state this year. But I really am concerned about the psyche of this football team coming out of this game in Tuscaloosa, because I think this is the point where it either does one of two things. You either get some confidence, move forward, and get bowl eligible later in the year, or you start to see a slide and it's going to keep sliding. I don't know if you've ever been in the woods on a four-wheeler and been on a muddy road. You get on a muddy road and you start sliding a little bit and you just keep sliding sideways and your wheels aren't moving. You just keep sliding and keep sliding and keep sliding. And do you finally hit the ditch? And that's what I'm concerned about this football team.
Are we in the ditch or are we still sliding?
I think they're still sliding.
Because zero's a ditch.
Yeah.
If you ask me. Okay.
I think we're still sliding. I don't think we've hit the ditch yet. I'm concerned that the ditch is going to be in Tuscaloosa at 11 o'clock. I really am. Because this defense, Nick Saban is, as far as defensive minds, I have him right up there with some of the top 5 guys in the country all time defensively. This guy, he is so squared away, so well put together defensively. Like his defenses, even when he first got to Alabama, they weren't great, but their defense was really, really good. And it kept him in ball games until he got his offense good enough to manage. And we started winning championships. So it's still Nick Saban. Until Nick Saban's gone or they hire Mike Shula again, I don't think the streak's getting broke. I hate it. I really do, because I live here. And I'll be honest, my Alabama friends are nicer to me than my Auburn friends are, because we haven't beat them in like 20 years. So the only time they really pick on me is in baseball or basketball season, and we lose. So, but in football, they don't even bother me. They leave me alone. But I will say this. If we somehow win, next week, Coach will probably have to have an extra co-host, because I will probably be in jail. I will lose my mind. I will probably go streaking in front of the SEC offices or something crazy. I'll be on the news, and I'm going to need GoFundMe. So just be watching Twitter. If my wife's on there, she's probably going to put out like a, hey, free Sasquatch hashtag. It might be a new T-shirt we put out. Who knows? Check with us again next week. We're going to have a great run. We're looking forward to homecoming in Fayetteville next weekend. Mississippi State. Haven't heard of game time. I think it's 11 o'clock, which I hate 11 o'clock games.
It's 11.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. So not looking forward to that. Miss Cierra, thank you again for joining us tonight on Big Pig. I know it's your first time out. We appreciate you being here with me and Coach. Coach Kelley, as always, appreciate you, brother. Join us again next week, Big Pig Energy on the Arkansas Sports Network. Go visit our sponsors, Barley and Vine in Bentonville, Arkansas this weekend. And check out BMBB Lifestyle Print Company at www.bmbblifestyle.com. Thanks again, and go Hogs.